Hello, and welcome to the Tartan Community Day presentation, Grind Culture in the Job Search, Debunking Myths That Rob You of Rest, presented by the Career and Professional Development Center. Today, we will be presenting 6 commonly heard myths that circulate Carnegie Mellon's campus about the job and internship search with 2 of the CPDC career consultants and 2 career peer mentors. After some introductions, we will introduce these myths with some advice from the career consultants, as well as some first-person encounters and ways of handling these various situations from the CPMs. So, without further ado, let's get started.
Hi everyone, my name is Amanda. I am a career consultant here in the CPDC. Particularly, I work with College of Engineering undergraduate students. I also work with student athletes here on campus. And my favorite ways to rest are through skincare, candles, and reading a book, but preferably all 3 at the same time.
Hi everybody, my name is Caden Boucher. I use they, them pronouns. I am a career consultant in the College of Fine Arts, specifically working with the art, architecture, and design students. I'm also a diversity and inclusion career specialist, and my favorite ways to rest are yoga and baking, not at the same time.
Hi, I'm Juliet. I'm a career peer mentor, so I'm a student employee of the Career and Professional Development Center. I'm a senior. I study math, concentrating in operations, research, and statistics, and minoring in human-computer interaction and Chinese studies. My favorite way to rest is probably binge watching a whole bunch of different YouTube videos, but I also like dancing and designing greeting cards.
Hi, my name is Karina. I'm also a career peer mentor. I am also a senior, but I am studying business administration with concentrations in both marketing and business analytics with a minor in sound design. My favorite ways to rest are exercising and playing the piano, and also using the do not disturb feature on your phone.
So we're going to get started with presenting our myths. So I'm going to have Karina introduce this first one.
Yes, so myth number 1 is getting a job is a competition because everyone at CMU is so accomplished, and I need to make myself appear to be the best candidate in every position that I apply to.
Yeah, so with this myth, we can kind of get the sense that, things are competitive and there's a lot of really great applicants coming out of Carnegie Mellon. First, you should pat yourself on the back for being a Carnegie Mellon student. But we really want to make sure that you guys understand that finding a job or internship can feel like an overwhelming task, or it can feel like this really large mountain to climb with, some obstacles along the way. But in reality, there's a way to kind of tweak that so that you don't have this overwhelming, daunting task on your plate. Maybe putting a positive spin on it to look at it more as like a vast, expansive opportunity for you to find something that's just the right fit for you, or potentially breaking this down into smaller steps. Accomplishing those small wins, congratulating yourself for those small wins, and then working with your career consultant to find the opportunity that is right for you. So please use your resources. We would love to help here in the CPDC. Now, I'd love to hear from Juliet and Karina. Tell us a little bit about how you have actively tried to not compare yourself to your peers.
I can start. So I guess my biggest piece of advice is to block out all their toxic people in your life. So I know there are a lot of people at CMU who really like to flex their internships and all the different offers that they have. But honestly, I feel like it's better for you to maybe keep those private, or maybe just think about what's best for you instead of maybe having the most reputable internship program.
Yeah, and I guess for me, I spent a lot of time in my first 2 years of college really trying to explore and figure out what it is that I wanted to do. I know for business, a lot of people go in thinking that they want to do investment banking and finance just because that's where the money is. And I personally thought I wanted to do that too when I came in freshman year. And then I slowly realized I don't think I want to work a 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. job. And I don't really care that much for Wall Street. So I started exploring different avenues. I realized that I really connect with the media and entertainment industry. So that's what I'm hoping to go into. And so through that, I kind of realized that my path is very different from everyone else's. Investment banking, they kind of apply in the May, and then they get their internship secured in September. For me, it would be very different because I would have to explore these opportunities in the spring.
Great, thank you. Juliet, how about you introduce our next myth?
So our next myth is networking is the only way to get a job in today's competitive job market.
So while networking is an incredibly important facet of finding a job that might be an insanely good fit for you, it's not going to be the be-all end-all for you being able to get a job that you think is going to be the best way for you to grow. So we often will say networking is important, but it's definitely going to be a quality over quantity type situation. So it's a lot better for you to have 3 really good contacts within your industry of choice where you can really dive deep and ask those nitty-gritty questions than it is to have 30 general contacts where you are just on a basically first name basis with a little bit of mentorship under your belt with that type of relationship. So whenever you are searching for jobs and trying to land a job or an internship, remember also that there's not one singular way to go about doing this search. We really do recommend diversifying your searching methods, whether that be through networking as well as general applications, or even doing outreach to professors or mentors in your field to make sure that you are finding all opportunities that might be applicable to you. And the best way to go about doing this, especially because it's industry specific, is to talk to your career consultant. So with that, Amanda has another question for us.
Yeah, so Karina and Juliet, I'm interested to hear your response to this, but how do you balance the time needed to do effective networking while also balancing being a full-time college student?
I think for me, it's just exactly what Kaden mentioned, like quality over quantity. I also want to mention that a lot of people think networking is just having a contact with a recruiter from a company, but networking can also be like asking students about their internships and job offers, and then going through that too. It doesn't always have to be directly with a company contact.
I definitely agree with what Karina said. I think for me, when I was trying to decide what I wanted to do, I spent a lot of time talking to upperclassmen and asking them about their experiences. And it doesn't really feel like networking, but it is, because when it's time for you to be, when you're a junior and you're looking into internship programs and they're working full time, they can go and give you a referral because they've talked to you about it, your passions already.
And a follow-up question to you too as well. So we often hear the terms informational interviewing. So what does an informational interview look like to you individually, and how can it help you kind of figure out your next steps in that path?
Should I start?
Sure.
Okay. So informational interviewing is basically being able to reach out to someone and then asking them about their company experience. So I do this a lot with cold calling or like cold emailing. So if I get a contact to a company, I would just type in my subject, like I'm a Carnegie Mellon student that may be interested in this company. And you can set up 20 minutes with them and then ask them things about like, oh, what do you do for your work? And like, what's the company culture like? And these are just questions to kind of gauge like how you would fit in the company if you were to apply. And I think they're very helpful in that aspect in narrowing down which companies would be a good fit for you.
So for me, I think informational interviewing is pretty much the same as what Karina said. I've been lucky enough to talk to a lot of CMU alum, either through recruiters that gave me their contact info or through something called Tartan Talks that Korean Professional Development Center has. So for me, they're usually like 30-minute talks. I ask them about their position. I ask them what kind of projects they're working on. But more importantly, I also ask them how their CMU experience really helped them with the position. So I think for me, that's like one of my biggest things that I get out of informational interviews.
Awesome, thank you. Next myth will be introduced by Karina.
Yes, so myth number 3 is I need to find a position, whether that's a job or an internship, by October or else I am considered a failure.
Yeah, so we see this a lot where, again, we're kind of running on the theme here. Students feel that there needs to be a prescribed time or deadline or a set of strategies that they need to utilize, when in reality, everyone's timeline is going to look different, and that's okay. Don't take the time to compare yourself to someone else's search or someone else's path, because quite frankly, they are going to look different, and that's purposeful. Making sure that you understand that comparison to others and self-prescribed deadlines do more harm than good. Your process is solely your own, and working with your career consultant to understand those industries of interest and figuring out strategies to navigate what timeline looks best for you is really important. So coming to the Career Center and utilizing your resources for sure.
So Karina and Juliet, when did you both get your individual internships, if you had multiple? And can you also talk a little bit about how different industries recruit on various timelines?
Yeah, so I can talk a bit about the tech and the finance industry. My first internship was after my sophomore year. I actually got that internship in February, so during the spring semester my sophomore year, and it was for a tech company. So I think in general, tech companies recruit a little bit later than finance companies. My internship for after my junior year, I got in July of, so the summer before my junior year. So I basically had like a whole year before I actually started the internship.
For
Great.
me, I also had two internships, but one was actually during the school year in the spring. And for that, I believe I applied in late October and I interviewed for the internship. And then I believe I got my offer in November, and that was going to start like 2 months. So in January. And for my second internship this past summer, I got it in May. So I was very, very late. So that's just shows like how different the recruiting timelines can be for every position in every industry.
And we also want to just throw out there too that every industry, even if it has a prescribed timeline, they're all going to be different, just as Julia and Karina said. So if you're someone who is like, I need to have something figured out by the way that every other one of my peers has it figured out, you don't, we promise. But just come and talk to your career consultant and they can help you through that. Juliet.
So next myth is I have to submit at least 150 job applications before I end up landing a job.
So there is no right number for the number of applications that you need to aim for. I had spoken a little bit about quality over quantity. That applies here too. You really want to make sure that you are putting a good amount of effort into the strength of the applications that you are sending in, whether that be making sure that your resume and your cover letter are tailored to every position that you're applying to, or you're really updating your portfolio or GitHub to be able to show the best exemplary work that you could offer. You really just want to make sure that whatever you are showcasing to recruiters or hiring management, that it's going to best show how you are able to bring these awesome skills that you've learned at CMU to the table, and what you can also learn from the position that you're applying to in the first place. So the best way to learn how to showcase those skills, one, is to talk to your career consultant, but two, to also look at all of the things that you have done while at CMU and how those can translate into the positions that you're applying to. Don't just think about your internships as being the only way that you have gained professional experience. You also want to look at classwork as well as projects that you've done, volunteer services that you've accomplished, anything that you've done in terms of registered student organizations or being a leader on campus. All of these things can go into helping create robust application materials so you can put your best self forward.
So Karina and Juliet, what is a good goal number of applications to complete, and how do you space that out throughout the semester?
I honestly think that's a trick question. So I definitely know people who've applied to 150 applications. I personally never applied to nearly as many. I think the max I've ever done in a year is about 30 applications. And this year I only applied to 7. In terms of how I space them out throughout the semester, it kind of depends on when you are applying. So for me, I tried to apply to things when I didn't have as much homework. So maybe in the beginning of the fall semester and the beginning of the spring semester, or over breaks when I had the time to apply to things. but I certainly know people who like keep track and apply to maybe like 1 or 2 positions every day.
Yeah, I think for me, I also am not a person to apply to 150 applications. I think I've only applied to maybe 20 at a time. And the reason for that being is like it's really important for me to know if I fit in the company and if it's actually a company that I would really, really like to work for. So I actually spend a lot more time on the researching aspect when I'm applying to jobs. And I find that it's actually a lot easier when I apply to the company and am able to tailor my resume or my cover letter just because I'm more passionate about it. And I feel like my my percentage for getting called back to an interview may be higher because of that. So I definitely am a quality over quantity type of person.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think it's good to have like a spreadsheet to keep track of companies you may be interested in applying to, and then afterwards narrowing down that list and then deciding which ones to actually apply to.
Just follow-up question to that, Julia. What do you normally put on your spreadsheet? Like, how do you categorize the different jobs? Do you categorize them by like title, location, salary? Give me a little bit of that understanding.
Yeah, so I usually have multiple tabs for the different types of positions I want to do. So in general, I wanted to do like data science or data analytics, but I was also okay with doing like business analytics, which is a little bit different. So I had a tab for business analytics, I had a tab for like research analysts, etc. In terms of like what order I put them in, I just kind of throw them in when I find the position and then I cross them off, or like I delete the row or I move them up depending on which ones I feel the most comfortable in applying to.
Yeah, I think for me, I categorize my spreadsheet into like 2 different categories. So like one is like, I would love, love, love to work at this company. And the other one was like, I would like to work at this company. Maybe I don't know that much about it, but I would prefer to work at another company more. So those are like the 2 kind of categories that I would put it in. It's kind of like when people tell you about applying to colleges, you would have like those 3 tiers, like the reach schools and then like the what you could get into and like your safety. So that's how I do mine.
Great, thank you. Karina, introduce this one, please.
Yes, myth number 5. I will sleep after I get a job offer.
All right, so this one, I really hope that by now maybe hearing, sleep is important and sleep is integral to your function is not something that you've heard for the first time right now. I'm hoping that you've heard that plenty of times throughout your life thus far. But plain and simple, if you don't sleep, you won't be able to keep up with the demands, not only of, your academics and your social life and just your personal life in general, but the demands of job hunting on top of all of that. So making sure that your health and your wellness are prioritized, and they really do matter. So taking that time to recharge yourself and your batteries, so to speak, so that you can go full steam ahead and really pour yourself into something. Participating in the job or internship search does not come before physical health or mental well-being. So keep that in mind. And we also really want to plug for those that are not aware, counseling and psychological services on campus is here to help with, maintaining your psychological and mental health. So be sure to utilize their resources.
So I would love to hear from both of you. Let's start with Karina this time. How do you practice intentional self-care when you have a million things to do? We already talked a little bit about your favorite ways to rest, but how do you make sure that you prioritize those things?
Yeah, this is definitely something that I'm very passionate about because I was the type of person that only slept like 3 or 4 hours like my freshman and sophomore year. And even junior year, I burned out really, really quickly. And I think just in terms of prioritizing, for me, it's a lot of planning out my week and also kind of categorizing tasks into like what is really, really urgent and what is not as urgent. So for example, for me, like Friday nights, I would used to spend my Friday nights like catching up on emails and then still like studying for tests. And now I've kind of moved away from that mentality to be like, okay, well, can I push this off to tomorrow morning? And it's not procrastinating. I don't see it as procrastinating. I just see it as like, I can give myself the time to rest so that I can be better for tomorrow.
I think for me, I pretty much do a lot of what Karina does. I am very fortunate that I never had to sleep like that few hours like Karina did. I think what I do is I like aggressively use my Google Calendar. So I try to block out times where I can like dance or like pay or hang out with like different friends or like grab food with other people. And I even like sometimes set out time to like go grocery shopping or like cook with other people because that's relaxing in its own sense. And it's something that we all need to do, especially now during the pandemic. And then I guess another thing that I've personally done is just like vent to a whole bunch of different people. I've used CAPS before and I find it to be a really helpful resource. But I also think it's good to have a couple of close friends where you can just like complain about anything in your life too.
Yeah, I think what Juliet said about blocking off time is really important. I know in the beginning I mentioned that like one of my favorite ways to rest is turning on the do not disturb feature. For me, I'm like a huge stickler for my emails, which is really bad. It's just an addiction at this point where I feel like I need to reply right away, even if it's like 11 p.m. and they don't expect a reply like right then. So being able to like turn off your notifications and actually give yourself time to like be outside of the internet, online, social media thing is really important.
Great, thank you. And then for our last myth, Juliet.
The most important aspect of college is my academics and eventually my job search. Taking care of myself isn't as important.
So we really want to stress that right now, college might feel like a lot. You have a lot of balls up in the air that you're trying to juggle, and you might think, okay, I only have this short amount of time to really make the most of preparing myself for my eventual career. Newsflash, you're not going to have your entire life forever centered around your academics or eventually even your career. And I know that when I was in undergrad, I thought, I'm going to only focus on my career. I want to make sure that I can get to the top of my career industry as quickly as possible. And then I realized as I was growing a little bit older, I had gotten out of grad school, that's not a sustainable way to live. You burn out very quickly and you need hobbies, friends, support systems to really make sure that you are taking advantage of your day-to-day the most that you can. So right now is a really good time to start instilling these habits into your routine so you can have strong self-care practices that are going to allow you to live your life to the fullest, both while you're in college, but also after you've graduated and you've entered your industry career force. So having these goals set now is ultimately going to set you up for success later on.
All right, Juliet and Karina, last question. How do you prioritize your responsibilities during the job search?
I can go first. So kind of like Karina mentioned, I try to label things as urgent or more important and then others. I have like a to-do list that I write down every single day in the morning. So it helps me like kind of prioritize what I'm going to do during the day. And I think that's really helpful. I usually like also try to have a block where I can just like reflect on my day or like kind of like not really meditate, but kind of like just kind of think about like how my day went and what things went well and what things didn't go well.
Yeah, I feel like I don't have that much to add to that. Just the same thing, planning out the day using your Google Calendar, whatever you can do to kind of put your mind at ease or so you don't have to keep track of so many things that are going on. It's kind of like what people say, like, you can't eat the elephant, or what is it? That question that's like, oh, how do you eat an elephant? It's one piece at a time. I feel like that's a big thing for CME students.
Great. Thank you so much, Juliet and Karina. In conclusion, we want to say that it's important to really prioritize your career journey, but you can't pour from an empty cup. So we really do want to emphasize that you do need to be taking care of yourself along this path to set yourself up for success. and allow rest to be the rejuvenator to get you through to your next major breakthrough. We know that this is a very long, arduous process, and it could feel like it's never going to end, or you're watching your peers find internships and jobs ahead of you. But we really do want you to know that there's no need to compare yourself to anybody else. You are driving your own bus, and so as long as you are doing what you need to do to take care of yourself, you're going to come out and be successful in whatever way you want to define success.
And just in closing, remembering that the Career and Professional Development Center is here for you along every step of your career journey. So even from the basics, no question is too small. Make sure that you're connecting with us, schedule an appointment with your career consultant. We'd be happy to help you with every step.
Thank you so much for attending this presentation. Please enjoy the rest of the Tartan Community Days, and we hope that you have a wonderful rest of the semester.